Today I'm going to be using a watercolor block that Hanamule just sent to me. This is a natural white, hot pressed, 100% cotton rag, mold made watercolor paper, which is acid free, age resistant, and surfaced size. If you've never used a waterboard before, they are glued together on all four sides, excluding one section that they will leave open. You can see the different pages right there. And that way you can slide your tool, and we'll discuss that later when it comes to removing my paper from the board. I'm going to be taping off today the edges of my paper so that hopefully I will get a nice, smooth, crisp, clean edge. I'm going to be using some artist tape. This is a brand new product for me. I've not used this one before, so we'll give this a whirl and see how it works out. As you might be able to see, because it is white on white and it's a little hard to tell, but I have put my artist tape, which is a repositionable tape that will hopefully keep my watercolor from escaping to the outside edge, because I want a nice sharp clean line so that when I go to matte this picture, and hopefully this will be a matte worthy picture, I will have a nice pretty line. So you just lay it down, and like it says, it's repositionable, so as you can see it does not hurt your paper when you peel it up, which is very important. So that step is now done. Okay, I'm going to be working on my superimposing photographs onto the background of my watercolors, and I have done several of these projects lately, and I'll show you a couple pictures so that you can see what I'm talking about. And this is what I do, is I print out pictures and I just cut them out. Now that I have my picture completely cut out, I have a couple things to deal with in regards to the placement of my art. One is the crop lines where he was cut out, so I have two straight lines here, and the third, which was the crop line where the top of his head was cut off in the picture, and I've tried to create a little curvature there so that's not as noticeable. So because I have these two straight lines, I'm going to set this down in the bottom corner, bottom left corner of my board. So now I have the rule of thirds, which is just a guideline as to how to divide my picture up. I'm going to be painting the ocean and the sky in the background. It's kind of a simple picture, but that's okay because this is my focal point right here. The background is not to compete, but to add to my focal point. So I'm going to use the rule of thirds to help with the placement of elements and hopefully give everything composition, correct composition. So I have drawn two lines right here for my horizon, and remove the picture and take a ruler and I'm going to be using just a watercolor pencil to lightly mark my lines, and that way I know where my horizon is going to be. I frequently put my picture back just so I know where things are going to be, but I'm not going to paint or add water to my paper with my photograph here. Of course, it would damage the photograph. I'm also going to be using some art masking liquid to create the froth where I want kind of a crashing wave to be. So I'm just going to randomly, hopefully, add some marks, and once this has dried and you've watercolored over it, then it will peel off and will be white. Now that my blue masking fluid has been applied, my next step is to use a different resist, which is just a regular white crayon, and I'm just going to stroke some waves that would be breaking the water and give it some motion. And we'll see how that will work out. I'm also going to add one line right over my horizon. So now I have that done. Time for colors. These are hake brushes. It's like pronouncing rake, but use a H in place of the R. Rake. Hake. So hake brushes are Japanese brushes that are individually hand tied, and hopefully you can see on this one in particular where this one is hand tied in between two flat sticks. These are usually made out of goat hair or sheep hair. More inexpensive hake brush, and this is the more expensive one. So I'm going to use this one. I just got it just a couple days ago, and I can't wait. It's very soft. It's supposed to hold a lot of water. So this is the very first time I have ever used it. And I'm going to try a kind of a wet on wet technique here. And I'm going to just evenly wet my watercolor paper. My paints today that I'm going to be using are my Twinkling H2Os. So now I'm going to use a fan brush dipped in some water for hopefully lifting up some spray dots that will be around the water. And for anybody who's wondering why I don't have a big surf going here, that is because I live in North Carolina and we don't really get big waves here, kind of rolling waves. So since this is going to go to a recipient that lives in North Carolina, Myrtle Beach to be exact, I want it to kind of reflect that. So I flicked some water on there, and I'm going to let that sit for a minute, and then I'm going to blot. So this is set for maybe a minute, maybe a little less than a minute. I really didn't count it. And I'm going to just lay a piece of paper towel directly over it, like so. Press down. You can see that the color is being picked up. And then pull that off, and we have some dots. So that's one way of getting some water dots. Now I'm going to let that dry, and I'm going to work on the sky. We're going to let that dry, and if there's one thing I have learned in watercolor, it's don't rush. Walk away, let things dry. You can add to, it's a lot harder to take away. So this is where I'm at right now. I'm going to walk away, let it dry, and then I'm going to come back and see what I need to add and remove the masking. I'm going to take some of my sea spray and go over right where that horizon is, that line that I marked in pencil, and just touch, which will give me a glazing, which is a technical term. Makes me feel very watercolor-ish. Okay, so I have removed all the masking. Now, I love how this white caps and ocean really looks right there, but if I wanted to add a little bit of white dots, because what I picked up, it's not white, it's just a little faded looking, the other dots that I did with the water. But if you take cyan white, and here's my cyan white, and it's nice and wet, and I'm just going to take, whoop, there we go, very lightly, and add some little spray with that. I'm using a rather small thin brush, not too thin actually. It's the round Princeton's Zero. And what I'm going to do is just touch where that white crayon is supposed to be. And we're going to just make our own little wave caps, I guess you call them. I'm not exactly sure the term is. But as you can see, it just highlights enough now to be seen. Well, this might be the scariest thing I'm going to try to do. But I'm going to try, hopefully. Oh God. Please draw some seagulls. Next thing is taking my photograph and gluing it on and signing it, and I'm done. And as promised, I'll show you how to take your paper off of your board. You find the little open spot like I showed you before, and I use a flat tool, flat spatula of some sort, and slide it in. And then you want to pull away. So you're pushing and pulling away from your paper so you don't tear anything. And that's one side done.